Hi, everybody. Gloria Moraga here. How are you doing? This is the Political Woman podcast. Thanks for being here. I'm going to talk about the United States Supreme Court. This week, SCOTUS heard two cases regarding Biden's plan to forgive student loans, some federal student loans. The cases were Biden versus Nebraska et al. And the Department of Education versus Myra Brown et al. Now, at stake, $400 billion in student loan debt that the Biden administration wants to forgive, and he's going to do it through the Department of Education. So up to 40 million Americans, you know who you are, could see up to as much as $20,000 of student loans canceled. Now, here's who brought the two suits to stop this. 6 Republican-led states. They argue that the Department of Education and President Biden is exceeding his authority to forgive this debt. And here are the states that are joining with Biden. And I did have the list here, and I thought I copied and pasted it, but apparently I have not. So I will get that list and give it to you at the end of the podcast. They're all Republican managed, led states. Here's who else is challenging the student loan forgiveness program in court. Myra Brown. So it's two individuals who have student debt. Myra Brown and Alexandra Taylor. Now, Brown has about $70,000 in private student loans. Taylor has about $25,000 in college loan debt. Some of that could have been forgiven, but not all of it. The two say in their briefs that they deserved to be able to weigh in on debt forgiveness, but the current rulemaking process doesn't allow that. So this is their way of weighing in, that it's not fair to them. Those two are backed by a group called Job Creators Network Foundation because it is very expensive to challenge some of these rules legally, and they needed the financial help. Now, that group, Job Creators Network Foundation, is backed by, it's a conservative legal group, and it's backed by the founder of Home Depot, Bernie Marcus, who's a right-wing activist. Now, this is a quote from MSNBC. What the justices said, quote, "Several conservative justices appeared skeptical of the administration's authority to cancel millions of dollars in federally held loans." And someone commented during the proceedings, during the hearing, what difference does it make to the states? So, it's separation of state rights and federal rights. I don't know if you don't have a horse in the race. Now, some of the liberal justices, and there's not very many of them, I think 3, raised concerns about states hampering federal government operations and that they shouldn't be able to do it, that it's not right. So that's the gist, the overall gist of what the two arguments in the two cases were about. I got student loan background. I'm looking up that information on the states. and actually want to say that I covered the court for years and years, and here's what happens. You hear the arguments in the fall, the winter, and then the decisions start being handed down, the rulings, in summer. So usually they start on July 1st. I always remember, the rulings would come down right before the 4th of July holiday, and there I'd be. But so we could get a decision on this, sometime this summer. So I know that a lot of people have been waiting for to see what would happen to their student loans, because there was a halt because of COVID. Now, when I did my TikTok video earlier, maybe I didn't explain it, because a lot of people were saying, why should we pay their debt? Why should we pay their debt? Well, this forgiveness program was part of COVID-19, and it was part of a way to help alleviate some of the debt that students have been saddled with. So, even people who support this say it may not be the perfect stimulus. It's not going to wipe out student debt forever, but it is a way to help students who are struggling, just like the federal government helped small business owners, airlines, hospitals, medical professionals, by giving them stimulus money. Average taxpayers were given stimulus checks to keep going during the pandemic, when so many businesses had to shutter. Like the airlines really lost, a lot of business. People just weren't flying. So the states that joined in this suit: Nebraska, Missouri, Arkansas, Iowa, Kansas, and South Carolina. So those are the states that have that filed the first suit, Biden versus Nebraska. Now, I pulled a lot of this information from different articles online, including the New York Times and USA Today and MSNBC. But I also went to the court and pulled down, downloaded the arguments and downloaded the audio of the arguments. And so the transcripts and the audio are on my website. So take a listen, and you can hear for yourself how the conservative justices are leaning toward, this just isn't fair. And what's fair when you're looking at stimulus, when you're looking at they say that students are so paralyzed by college debt, tuition debt, that they can't buy homes, they can't get married, they can't. I know somebody who couldn't get married. They had a ceremony, but they did not legally get married because of the student loan debt, and on and on. And that if there's some help here, it will give students some relief and work as a stimulus to help the economy. I'm Gloria Moraga. I'm a political woman. I vote. I am on TikTok, on YouTube. My podcast, you can get it wherever you get podcasts. Just look up my name, Gloria Moraga, political woman. I'm producing content on politics, on policy, on breaking political news, breaking court stories. Today there was a story about the Alec Murdaugh trial, which we've been watching because of the political ramifications in that case. What political ramifications? Here's what. For a long time, it has appeared and seemed that in this country there's justice for the rich and justice for the poor. And we've seen it in the delay of charging any of the powerful rich people with crimes from the insurrection. And yes, they're crimes. They're crimes. So when you've got a family like the Murdoch family that was for 100 years held tremendous amount of legal power, I was kind of shocked today when he was found guilty. He was found guilty of double homicide for the murder of his wife and his son. And the way the prosecutors presented the case, it was done for money. He needed the money to save his own skin. So, yeah, I'm working on and reporting on content, producing content along those lines. If you want to know what's going on, if you want the backstory, the rest of the story on political news of the day, follow me and look for me. I put all my content on my website, gloriamoraga.com. I'll be back. I'm working on another post right now, and I will have that very soon. So follow me, stick with me.